I take off your disguise and flick. Oh, you flick too hard, damn it!
Shall we help him? And eventually, great.
Stop! What in the hell is this, bitch?
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. I recently went and saw Thor, Love and Thunder. The unfortunate part was I saw Thor, Love and Thunder on my birthday. So you may be wondering, why is that unfortunate? Like, isn't it a good thing you went to the movies for your birthday? Well, I mean, granted, yes, I didn't have to pay for anything, so that definitely helps. But it was not my idea to go and watch the movie. My boyfriend actually bought the tickets weeks ago and just was like, yeah, we're gonna go for your birthday or whatever. And so I figured, since I went through all of that, and I'm sure some people are going to want to know what I thought, I might as well make a video about it. I was going to talk about it on a stream, but that wasn't going to happen today. So I said, well, let's go with the next best thing and just make a video. So that's what we're here to talk about. The movie itself. What did I think? I'll go ahead and give you, if you just want to cut to the chase, granted I've been wasting all of this time so far, but if you just want to cut to the chase, did I like it? Standalone? No. In reference to some other things we've seen recently from the MCU? Sure. I think one thing that all of our group said when we left the movie theater was that we would not mind seeing this one again over Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So I think if there's anything you can glean from that, I mean, take that for, because the thing about this is Thor Love and Thunder is taking what Thor Ragnarok did and basically trying to do it all over again, but it's hoping that you aren't already used to its shtick. And so the biggest problem that I had with that is that I get it, you want to put humor in the movie. Fine, that can happen. I've always said this because people have talked about how, the series was too much of one thing at one point. But if you go back to the original movie, the first Thor movie, there was plenty of humor in there. Just in basically the way that he didn't really understand the way that our society works.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Sorry, Izzy, little accident.
Obviously, Jane didn't understand him. So you kind of had that dynamic going, and it made for some pretty funny moments. It honestly did. So I think with that being said, what is it about the humor here that bothers me? It's that it steps on itself. You know what I mean? This is the perfect way I can sum up this movie, is that it spent the first half of its runtime not taking itself seriously, and then it spent the second half of its runtime wanting me to take it seriously, with no real reason to do so. Because the problem is, in the beginning of the movie, you do have that very poignant scene with, Gore and his whole struggle and everything. I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. Not for any particular reason, but just cause. So we have that moment at the beginning that's very, that's pretty gripping. It plays on a very real human emotion. So because of that, you're able to get a very genuine reaction from your audience. But then it immediately goes into, like I said, back to Thor Ragnarok type of stuff, where it's okay, now we're joking about shit. There's the whole voiceover from Taika Waititi, and then the whole thing with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was okay, I guess, because the Guardians of the Galaxy already had that thing going too, which I kind of have a problem with them doing it too. But James Gunn has a different way that he goes about it. Taika Waititi has a very particular way he goes about it, and maybe it's just his sense of humor doesn't jive with mine all the time. So we have that whole intro with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Thor has to, split off and go on his little solo adventure. So we have that whole thing. And like I said, every time you start to have something like a moment that gets serious, immediately, immediately joke. Immediately there was a joke to shatter all of the tension and emotional buildup, joke. And that's why I'm saying it spent the whole first half of the runtime not even taking itself seriously. Every time something got serious, there had to be a joke put in to undercut it. And then it's going to spend the next part of the movie expecting me to be emotionally invested when you have not allowed me to have anything to actually hold on to. Because every time we start to feel that, all of a sudden you make a joke and just shatter and remind me this isn't that kind of movie anymore since everybody hated Thor Dark World. I realize I'm on a very lonely island. There are a few other people there, but I realize I'm on a lonely island when I say that I actually enjoyed Thor the Dark World. I don't care if you have an opinion about my opinion of that movie, but I think that could have led to more interesting Thor story. I feel like that what the one that they really should have got, and again, people disagree with me on this one, and again, I don't care. The first one, the first movie had that right mix of serious moments and then also the humor.
Hi. Just taking a little blood.
How dare you attack the son of Odin!
Need some help! I'm trying to help
Security to ER3! You're no match for the mighty!
I mean, when you have in this current movie, when you have Jane Foster, who's basically just kind of ho-hum about her having cancer, I mean, it could absolutely work if you were to explain it that she has this attitude about her cancer because, well, you don't have to explain it, but if you were to show like she has this attitude about the cancer because she just knows like she has a limited amount of time. So she wants to focus on her work because that's the thing she finds most fulfilling in life, and that's what she just throws herself into. They kind of tried to get there, but again, every time it would start to be like, okay, we're getting something real from these characters. Here comes the joke. So and then of course you have the whole thing with Jane Foster finding Mjolnir and that whole, I have the series, and I'll tell you what, I'll tell you this right now. I remember the day, the absolute day I remember when I got Thor #1, and it was the first time that we had Jane Foster wielding that. Of course, at the time, they were trying to play it as like this big mystery. It was like, well, who's actually Thor? Nobody knows. That was the point of the mask at first. It was like, well, nobody knows who it is. And then, eventually, well, they revealed it was Jane Foster, but people figure it out pretty quick. Like, it's obviously Jane Foster. So they have to include that in here. And they did include the whole, storyline, with the cancer thing. And then, the hammer gives her, vitality again. It kind of plays on the whole thing because my boyfriend asked me after the movie, he was like, is that really a thing? Like, can the hammer do that? And I told him, well, it's a little bit of a variation on what they did with the original Thor with Donald Blake, Dr. Donald Blake, who was, basically he was kind of a cripple. He walked with a cane. And so when he would hit the cane, that would turn him into Thor. So that gave him the strength and the power of the god. They would switch places. So I told him it's basically kind of like that. They were trying to do that same type of thing. So they have that whole thing in there, but it's rushed so quickly. She walks up to the hammer and reforges itself. And it's like, okay, so now she's Thor and she's just flying around. That's how we find out that she's officially Thor. We knew it when we see the hammer come together, obviously, but when she shows up in a battle and then she's wearing, the armor and everything, and it just, I don't know, the whole thing just felt so, like I said, rushed. Like there wasn't enough. It was just, hey, you knew this was coming, so we're just gonna get right to it. That was very much what the attitude was here, was just, since the audience already knows it's coming, let's not waste any time, I guess, or let's not even attempt to make it seem meaningful or impactful. Let's just have it. You might argue that those few seconds that all of a sudden Mjolnir's power started to manifest was them trying to actually sell the moment, but there wasn't, no, I'm not going to buy that. There wasn't enough to that. There really wasn't. She goes on a tour group and then she's standing there as there's like, I don't know, 10 guards all staring at her, and then she's just looking at the thing. And at no point do any of them make a move. Even when the thing starts manifesting power, all of them are just like, "Yep, this happens all the time, right?" Like, what? I and it does raise the good question. Why didn't if Mjolnir could put itself back together, why didn't it? Like, did Thor at no point ever go back to it? Like, I don't. He never went back to the hammer. He just left it there and was like, "Well, fuck it. I'm not even gonna see if I can fix it." I don't know. It seems really weird to me. So they have all of that going in there, and then just like I said, once you actually get to the final conflict, which it was pretty pointless. Like, it was pointless to include Jane Foster and then also Valkyrie into all of this, because especially Valkyrie, who is basically just there for most of the movie. We kept getting these implications that somehow Valkyrie was oh so important, and yet at no point was Valkyrie actually important to the plot. Like, Valkyrie didn't do very much. They tried to sell it at one point by having Valkyrie, stabbing Gore, and it seemed like, oh, she got a pretty good one in. But that was literally the only thing I could remember her actually doing in a meaningful way in the entire movie. Other than that, there was nothing of note that she actually did but stand there and act as an extra warm body in the group. And Jane Foster, not much different. I mean, there were times when they were trying to sell to us like, "Hey, isn't she badass as Thor?" And then, well, I'm not going to spoil the ending. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. But I mean, as far as the ending, I kind of saw that coming for her, what ended up happening to her. So I'm not surprised. Same thing, with the one thing I didn't see coming was that, okay, let's just go ahead and get to the ending because we've already talked about everything else. And I'm not going to talk too much about everything. Like the whole part where they have like an army of kids for whatever reason, just because they wanted that to be going. It's so stupid. Like the plot itself, all right, they stole the children of Asgard. That's a pressing enough issue that yes, we should absolutely get on top of that. It, they when they finally get to this end, and then yeah, they have the kids fighting. When you see that, it again, like, we're at the end of the movie. This is supposed to be like the big conflict, and they still have to have like more jokes in there. It's not enough that you have an army of children fighting with weapons that were blessed by Thor, for a limited time. He even says that part in there, which was smart thinking, I think. But they do have a little girl in there who's dressed up as like a fairy princess, and she uses her little wand to like cut an enemy in half. And then they have another little girl who's spinning around with her stuffed rabbit as it shoots laser beams out of its eyes. I was like, what am I watching? Like, who either wrote this or storyboarded it and was like, yeah, this is the one, y'all. We got a hit on our hands with this one. Because it was so stupid, because you go from that to the fight now with Thor and Gore, and God, there are too many of these ors in this damn movie. But they have the whole, fight scene, and like I said, it plays out the way that it should. The hero's supposed to win, so that's not a real spoiler. Of course the hero was going to win. But we get to the ending, and then we see where now, this is the one thing I will spoil, and I don't really care if it spoils it much for you, because at some point it's going to come up again. So whether you see the movie or not, you're going to hear about it. So at the end of the movie, they basically transform Thor into a father, which I will say, the characterization of Thor as a father, pretty good. But as far as like the acting, Chris Hemsworth sells it very well. Like, he comes across as, like a very caring, but still, cool parent, I guess. And then they go out running to help, because that's basically their thing. They help people now. They just go places and help people. And that's what they were about to do. They were about to go help out in a battle. And yeah, that's the name, because Gore referred to her, if you didn't know this part too, it's Gore's daughter. Gore referred to her all the time. His little pet name for her was Love, my love, you know what I mean? Like, he would always call her his love. Yeah. And when, fuck it, when he dies, so he asked Thor, will you look over her for me? Will you raise her? And so Thor, of course, says yes. And then he ends up just calling her Love too. So that's how they became known as Love and Thunder. Get it? It was all in the title, y'all. The ending was literally in the title. Did you catch it? Were you there? Were you there with me when we caught it together? So there you go. If you didn't see the movie, now you know what happened at the end. You don't really need to see the middle because there's nothing really of substance that happens in the middle. We find out that Korg apparently ends up in a homosexual relationship, not for any political reason. That's just the way that his species reproduces. They're all dudes and they're all made of rock, so apparently they go down to like some lava pits and hold hands until eventually like they create a new member of their species or kind, whatever they are. Yeah, they create a new little boy, and then keeps playing out, ad infinitum. So yeah, that happens with Korg at the end. There's nothing really else that happens that I can talk about. Valkyrie trains the children to fight, but I mean, somebody was going to do that anyway after what happened, right? So there was nothing for me really to say that I really enjoyed all that much about this movie. Even the music, I was like, it was basically just Guns N' Roses. Pretty much, like anytime they had a big moment, it was just Guns N' Roses songs. So, I mean, I've never been the biggest Guns N' Roses fan. Like, nothing against them. I don't hate the band or anything. There's just their music. I grew tired of their music very quickly. So, no disrespect. Well, Axel is whatever. No disrespect to Slash. Hell of a guitarist. But, and the rest of the guys in the band. Like, good for all of them, but it wasn't really for me. I didn't walk out of there feeling like I had seen a comic book movie, if I'm being honest. It didn't feel like that's what it was. It felt like, I don't know, some sort of weird sci-fi movie, I guess. It didn't feel, you know what I mean? It didn't feel. But, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I had to pick, because I walked out of Doctor Strange 2 actively disliking the movie. This one I walked out and I was just kind of, I wasn't mad. I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time. It was entertaining enough that I didn't feel I'd wasted the time. But at the same time, I wasn't in any rush to watch it again, honestly. Especially because of the damn screaming goats. Oh, God. Those goats. I hated the parts with the goats. And I can already see it now. I can see it right now. I'm going to have a comment from somebody who's like, honestly, I actually really liked the goats. I thought it was the best part. I was laughing at it, and I'm not trying to hate on you or anything. I'm just saying I know somebody's gonna come to, because that always happens. There is always some part that I'm like, I could not stand this, and somebody always comes to the comments like, actually, I really liked it. I'm like, well, all right, cool. If you liked it, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just letting you know what I didn't like. So take that for whatever you will. I always enjoy hearing y'all's opinions on all of these things. Like I said, I read the comments. That's how I know sometimes people say things like that. So always enjoy hearing what y'all have to say. So definitely feel free to share your thoughts with me down below in the comment section. Anyway, I've wasted enough of your time. So thank you for coming and just listening to me ramble about this movie that I could not have been less underwhelmed by, more underwhelmed by. Whatever. However that phrase should work, that's what I mean. So, if you're done here, go and read a book. And if you're not done here, then I'll see you on my next video.